is first? Andy, I see you in channel. What's going on?
Well, funnily enough, it's my question that's first, so here I am.
I think this is rigged, but okay.
Yeah, a little bit, because it got because I was away. Anyway, so do you think the in-game aspects, the models, will? Do you think they indicate like change of all of the dragons models? Because previously we had completely different looks for aspects in human and dragon form for the dragons according to their Dragonflights. Do you think that they eventually update everything?
So you're asking whether or not the models are gonna receive an update?
Yeah.
But I'm assuming, because obviously they will probably receive a graphical update, right? They're probably gonna look better than what they looked in the past, because the dragons have always been a bit, it's still an old asset for the most part. You know, back in Cataclysm, I think the dragons got an update lost, so obviously there needs to be another update to them. Or are you asking whether or not they're gonna fundamentally change the aesthetics of the Dragonflight?
A fundamental change, because also the Proto-drakes have to change, right?
Yeah.
Which had very, very old models previously.
Yeah.
The problem is that this question is so old that since then we had a model of Alexstrasza, so...
Yeah, I would say most likely. It depends on how. I can't really say how it would change, because a lot of this is going to go down to what do the modern day World of Warcraft writers view dragons as? What do the modern day sort of artists of World of Warcraft, how do they view dragons? Because almost every single fantasy world has its own take on what a dragon is, right? And what dragons look like. If you look at dragons in Final Fantasy, for example, they look completely different to the dragons from World of Warcraft. Dragons in Elder Scrolls look completely different to the dragons in either of those games. So every single fantasy sort of has its own idea with what a dragon ultimately would be. I do think the bigger update is going to be to Proto-drakes. I think my personal opinion will be that dragons will the Dragonflight will get some fidelity upgrades and probably, you know, more polys and stuff like that, just to make them look a lot cooler. Maybe a few skeleton changes to make movement better, specifically now that they're doing Dragonriding, and the Dragonriding model is gonna need, like, that skeleton is gonna need a lot of sort of freedom in how it moves around. And that skeleton could obviously be applied to Alexstrasza and Ysera and the Brood and all of them. So dragons will obviously, I think, look a lot more realistic. Their movements will be a lot more free-flowing and things like that. Flying will probably no longer be as stiff as it is for dragons for the most part. So those could happen, but I think the bigger changes graphically is going to be Proto-drakes.
Do you think it will be a retrospective change? Like every past Proto-drake will get changed to a new model?
Maybe not all of them change to the new model, but sort of like, let's pretend like all of them look like this. You know, so rather than go back to Cataclysm and actually Wrath is where we dealt with the most Proto-drakes, I don't know if they'll update, they might actually update all of them as well. But yeah, Proto-drakes in World of Warcraft have always been sort of like just a weirder dragon form, which they're actually not. They are sort of the baseline drake that would eventually become the dragons as we know them. So they're obviously a lot more vicious looking. They're a lot more sort of weird and awkward because they're almost like in the middle of an evolutionary cycle. You know, they're not the final product, but they're also not the first product. So I'm assuming we're going to get a lot more of them. Not only that, but if you read Richard's books, I think it's Richard Knack. There's like, there's a lot of Proto-drakes. I think there's like 9 or 10, 11 maybe, different Proto-drakes that exist in World of Warcraft. We've only really dealt with a handful of them, but there's like 11 different colors because you have your normal colors, you know, like gold and bronze and blue and red Proto-drakes, but then you have mixtures of Proto-drakes. So you have like a gold-red Proto-drake, and all of these are different Proto-drakes. They're not the same. And I wonder if Blizzard is going to make that canon through the art. So will we see these different colored proto-drakes in the Dragon Isles? Because there's also not a lot of story around those proto-drakes. Richard simply outlined the number of proto-drakes that there are, but we never actually got an answer as to why do we have these multicolored proto-drakes. Could it be that they draw from two different elemental planes at the same time, because the proto-drakes are quite closely related to the elemental planes? So is this going to become some kind of lore thing? I don't know. What would your take be on this, Andy?
I hope they do give them some lore, because right now the only lore for Proto-drakes in game is for the drake in what's it called? In Howling Fjord. What's the goddamn, the blue one?
Yeah.
That's and the one in Siege of Orgrimmar.
Are you talking about the one that you get from Utgard Keep or Pinnacle?
Yeah, Utgard Keep. That
Utgard
one
Keep,
and the one that's used in Siege of Orgrimmar. Those are the only two that have anything about them.
Yeah. I mean, look, this is the opportunity for Blizzard to dive into the lore, probably the oldest lore that we have in World of Warcraft, Azerothian lore, so to speak, because Azerothian lore sort of has the Black Empire for a very long time without really the mention of any other life existing on Azeroth at the time. Then, of course, the Titans arrive and we see life flourish on Azeroth, but then we also see the old gods sort of corrupting that life. And then the dragons is kind of like the primordial life forces on Azeroth. They were some of the first sort of beings that were created on Azeroth. So there is a lot of story around the dragons, and it would be nice if Blizzard used this expansion to kind of codify a lot of that lore. You know, sort of give us all the answers we need about the earliest dragons on Azeroth. And if I'm correct, and this is going to be the expansion that sort of signifies like World of Warcraft 2.0 without calling it World of Warcraft 2.0, then dragons is fundamental to that story, because it is kind of starting at the beginning. You know, this is why I'm so excited for this expansion, because from a metaphysical standpoint, this is let's start at the beginning. It's a very good place to start, right? Because starting with dragons is sort of, you have two places to start at the beginning of Azeroth's history. One is in the Black Empire. We missed that boat. The other is with the dragons on the Dragon Isles. Those are the two sort of ground zero moments on Azeroth, in Azeroth history. And we are now in ground zero. Not back then, but you get what I mean. All right, was there another part of that question, or was that really...
No, that's all. Next one should be KP, if the person is in chat or in Discord, so please join and present your question. If not, then Morny will look back to it and present it himself. Thanks.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so guys, if you have asked a question and your question is in the queue, jump into voice channel now so that we can drag you up so that you can ask your own question. Otherwise, Morny is going to ask your question on your behalf. And if you don't agree with what I said, well, there's nothing you can do. You won't hear when I answer the question.